Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. Today I want to show you how to grow watermelon in your garden. This will be an ongoing series for 2023. And today we're going to talk about growing plants in a raised bed, something like this. We're going to go over to one that's covered in weeds. I'm going to show you how to set it up, show you how to get it planted. A couple things that are important. I'm in Maryland Zone 7. We're getting towards the end of June. Watermelon love when the soil temperature, where you're putting the plants, the seeds, when that soil temperature is really staying at 75 degrees, 75 degrees Fahrenheit. They like the days to be in the 70s and 80s, sometimes the lower 90s. And they like the nights to stay well above 60 degrees. So you're really looking for the warm weather. Melons are going to mature in anywhere from 65 to 90 days. They need about 2.5 months, 3 months of that warm temperature, and they grow really fast. So June is a great time here in Maryland to plant your watermelons, your pumpkins, and again, if you want to subscribe, I'll also be growing pumpkins and cantaloupe. But June is a great time to plant your watermelon plants. This variety here, I believe, is a sugar baby. It's more of a dwarf variety, and you can see that I have some trellising set up to just move the vines along, and I have 3 plants in there. This is a great size for 3 plants, dwarf variety, and each plant will get, I don't know, somewhere between 3 and 5 watermelon on them, and they'll have to be supported, so that will be in future videos. So the whole idea is putting them in the ground as seeds or transplants when it's warm enough, and now we're at those temperatures. Let's go over to the spot that we're going to set up today for growing watermelon. This is the space that we're going to put in the bush variety watermelons, and bush variety generally means the vines get 4 to 6 feet long, so they're a little bit more contained. The principles that we're going to use to set up this bed, you can really, also use out here in a bed like this. I'm going to be doing a video on that and setting up melons along there so that they all grow down here as I'm pulling out my potatoes, but that is a future video. The whole idea is to just have enough depth, really good soil, manure, add in some phosphorus, some other things. I'll show you how to do that because the melons are heavy feeders. So you want well-draining soil, of course, same old thing, lots of compost and all that. We'll go over that, plenty of nutrition. The key to watermelon, regular watering. You want to make sure you maintain the consistency of the moisture in the soil. The melons will do really well, and we talked about the temperatures, which are really important in the beginning of the video. So let me clear this out. We'll add in our amendments, and we'll plant some seeds, and we'll actually plant some transplants. Weeded out the space, actually loosened the soil around the outer edge because it looks like I had something digging in there, either mice or voles. Normally you don't have to dig and turn the soil. The root systems will grow into there. All good stuff we're going to be putting on the top, kind of working into there. And I'm going to raise this, 3 or 4 inches with some amendments. A couple of things that are important. Number one, if you're doing this in the ground, you would just kind of do a 2-foot space, put in all the amendments, really make the soil rich with compost, whatever you have. And if you're going to use transplants, these transplants are only about 3 weeks after germination, and you can see the root is just starting to come out. You don't want to put in watermelon transplants that have been sitting in there 6 weeks, 8 weeks. They start to flower right now, and this melon really isn't going to produce. It will, but not like it should if you started it from seed or as younger transplants. What do I mean by that? Watermelons are highly dependent on, after germination, for a good 3 weeks, getting a massive root system set up. That's to support the growth of the plant, get all the moisture in. If you make sure, and we'll be doing this, making sure you have consistent moisture, because the moisture allows the plant to pull in nutrients. So it has this massive root system. It's getting everything that it needs to grow a beautiful canopy or upper vine growth. This is past its prime. If I were to drop these guys in now, which I'm going to do, and put in 3 seeds, after the seeds germinate, really in about 4 weeks, you're going to have a tough time telling the difference between which ones were seed planted and which ones were started as transplants. When you put in your seeds with the 75-degree soil temperature, 70-degree, 80-degree days, they're going to germinate anywhere from 5 to 10 days. And the reason being, again, is the seeds that you put into the ground break the surface, but their root systems are getting started, and they're going to establish better root systems in the beginning than your plant right here, and they really catch up with each other. All right, so that is the long-winded way to say young transplants where the roots aren't coiled, just starting to come out, or direct seed, and you're going to have beautiful watermelon plants. The root systems are needed for the plants to develop, pull in the nutrients, and just have great upper green growth. All right, so now in this space I'm going to add in any organic granular fertilizer. This one happens to be a 5-3-3 nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. I just get what is on sale. This is organic. To be honest, plants don't really care if your fertilizer is organic or not. They can't really tell the difference, but you really do want to take care of the soil and make sure it has compost and other organic matter. That's what you really need for soil to be wonderful. It's not really so much about the fertilizer. So that was 3 big handfuls in there. I'm going to put in 1, 2 more right here. And you can see that I am really putting in a lot of the organic granular fertilizer. This is a slow release, which means it will break down over time and it will feed the plant through the season. It's really important that you have enough fertilizer, N, P, and K, the primary macronutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium in there, because they are heavy feeders. So the first thing that we're putting in is any organic granular fertilizer that has the N, P, and K represented. In addition to your general organic granular, I like to add in some triple phosphate. This is not organic. You can find organic versions. Handful about this size, and just sprinkle it around. And then I also like to add in, and then the phosphate is for phosphorus, obviously, and then potash, which I like to add in for potassium, and scattered around. This is what your plants are going to want when they get to flowering, producing fruit, and it's a good amount scattered through here. Those 2 fertilizers are really high in phosphorus, really high in potassium. That's what I like to do to set up the growing beds for melons, pumpkins, even potatoes at times. I would use less, like right here, if I was planting in the ground, but follow me. I'll be doing a whole ground planting video on the watermelon. So this is a nice setup right now for the addition of fertilizers. Now I'm going to get a bag of leaf grow, which is just leaf compost, and some of my own compost, and throw it in here. I like to put this down first because we're going to mix everything together. This will be spread out, and then your watermelon will have what they need for the season. A good amount of leaf compost, any kind of compost is fine. This is compost I've also been making from just all the organic matter and stuff that comes out of my garden over the years. This is what your soil loves. This is what worms love. This is what soil life loves. Chemical fertilizers aren't going to harm you or your plants. Just don't use them 24/7. So you can use them in addition when you're setting up something that's a heavy feeder. Perfectly fine. If you don't like that, go ahead and find, organic alternatives to higher phosphorus and potassium. I'm going to mix this all together, mix it into the top maybe 4 inches or so of the soil below there, and then we'll get to planting. All right, so the planting area is set up nicely. This is going to be perfect for growing 2 or 3 watermelon. Again, these are sugar babies, so they are only going to get maybe 4 to 6 foot long vines. I'm going to be doing some trellising in here too, but we'll go back to the raised bed that I showed you in the beginning. We'll talk a little bit more about that. All right, it's time for planting. You can plant them wherever you really want in this space. Notice again, the roots are just getting to the outside, just coming down to the bottom. This is perfect for transplants. If you were to do seeds, I just dropped down 3 seeds, probably 4, maybe 5, because you want 2 or 3 to come up, and you would thin to the 2 or 3 strongest plants. Push them in about 1 inch, half an inch, you're good to go. This easy. Press it in, and you're planted up for your melons. Next thing that's really important, we're going to water this in with any organic water-soluble fertilizer. Something higher in nitrogen like fish emulsion is great. I recommend AgroThrive. You can find them in my video description. I'm affiliated with them, and it's a nice balance of N, P, and K. In the beginning, a little bit more nitrogen if you're able to do it. The plants will grow. They'll love you for that. Later on, we'll do a side dressing, maybe with something that has a little bit more phosphorus and potassium, but you don't need to over worry about it. And that will give the flower production and fruit production a boost. Watering. So notice the root ball was only this big. So even if we soak in all of the space around here, the plants are only drawing from a root system about this big. So every other day, your seeds or your plants, you want to just soak this in really well, making sure water goes down a good 4 inches, 6 inches. And you're going to do that every other day for a good 10 to 14 days so that the root systems established, start to spread out. You can reduce watering at that point, but you're still going to be probably want to water at least 3 times a week. deep soakings, especially when the plants get big. Water, water, water. That is the key for successful watermelon. And you're going to do that regularly to about 2 weeks before harvest, where you'll stop watering, and sometimes that helps the sugars concentrate in the melons. But follow me and we'll cover that. So I'll be doing a whole series on growing watermelon for 2023. This is all you need to do to get started. I'm not going to show you because it'll just take up your time, but water it in a good 10 seconds of a water-soluble fertilizer, then water it in again, and you're good to go. All right, let's go back over to the other melons because I want to talk to you again about the flowers and what's going on here. The upper growth of the melons here, since being put into the containers, going on its 5th week. So they're really producing 3 plants. You know, my plan is to trellis one down there under the apple tree. Some of them are going to be, you know, growing up this makeshift trellis. They just started flowering and producing, you know, female flowers, that's a melon, about a week ago. This one already has flowers on it. You just don't want to hold your transplants in the containers really past, I'd say, maybe 3 or 4 weeks from germination. It's going to just stifle the growth of your melon. You want your melon to be looking something like this, like really green and leafy, tons of upper growth before these flowers start forming. This is what's going to give the plant energy to keep growing. It's going to give the plant energy to grow and develop the melons on your plants. Flowers, and it's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 leaves. You want a massive collection of leaves before the flowers start coming. So key really to this is putting in a good amount of fertilizer into the soil because these are heavy feeders, lots of compost, but really making sure that you water these every other day to get started, and at least 3 times a week. They really want a lot of water. And if you're in doubt and you're not sure about the transplants, just put in seeds. The seeds will germinate much more quickly because the temperatures now are in the 70s and 80s. The nights are staying in the upper 60s. Those are the temperatures that you want. And you can grow melons if you have a good 65, 90, 100 days of good temperature before the cool temperatures start rolling in. Thanks for watching. Please follow me. I'll be doing a whole series again on melons. And please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com. Thanks for watching.